And Niclas Fullkrug, the Hulkrug. Is he injured? We don't know. There's a lot of stuff we don't know about him. But anyway, what we are doing today is we are answering 3 separate questions on Niclas Fullkrug, which have been asked by our patrons, who we did a mug of tea the other day. It's just a little like a mug of tea extra. A few questions left over, and there was 3 all pertaining to Niclas Fullkrug. So what we thought we'd do is bundle them all up here, discuss them in front of you, then try and encourage you later on to join Patreon. Gio, you've got 3 questions there, mate.
Well, we've got quite a few questions, but it's from 2 different people, so I don't know where you're getting 3 from.
I just invented it.
Brian says, if Füllkrug comes back and becomes a solid number 9, how much of an impact do you guys see it making? Do you believe it could completely change our offensive production? Antonio's been doing well, but will Füllkrug unlock a piece to the puzzle? And Joan says, can you discuss Füllkrug, please? There are contradictory reports about his strengths and style of play. Is he a traditional number 9? How will he fit into our team? It doesn't seem that he's an Antonio replacement, so what does that mean for our setup and first team selection? We've paid up for him to be a regular starter, so what do you think will happen?
Well, I'm liking a solid number 9. Quite frankly, this is a tough one. Thanks for the questions and for everybody that sent in the questions. Actually, we had a lot of questions this week, and we got more coming up. Actually, haven't we? But I haven't seen enough of him, and I'm not on my own on that. I don't think any of us have seen enough of him. I think there's probably an unfair amount of pressure been put upon him by the whole John Duran stuff. But I think just to separate the fact that one of them has been really successful so far this season, and the other one has been it's been like the Scarlet Pimpernel, which I haven't seen him. I think that they're very different in terms of players. I haven't seen loads of Füllkrug, but like everybody does, once you don't know a lot about a player, you go and watch, and he's not fast. So I think that's the other thing. We've seen a couple of goals, whichever the long range one was on the shoulder that Duran scored recently. He's not going to be running against that last line of defence trying to break the offside trap. Füllkrug's not going to be that guy. He's not going to do that. So I can only assume that he's going to be part of a build-up. I think with regard to Antonio, we go back to the Ipswich game where Antonio was absolutely sensational. We had the header, which hit the underside of the bar. We had him closing down the goalkeeper, which sort of ricocheted and helped create Bowen's goal. We had him, but they also had him wide and put it in a cross for Kudus, which Kudus headed against the bar. And he was popping up all over the place. A lot of times central.
And
but
he also scored a goal.
And he also scored a goal, which was very central. So a lot of time central, but also popping up all over the place. Then we saw him against Brentford, popping up on the left a couple of times as well, and even putting a crossover from that side. I think you're not going to see that stuff. And I think, so I don't think you're going to see the crossover that you saw to Kudus. I don't necessarily think you're going to see Füllkrug in a position that Antonio was to put pressure on the goalkeeper, because I just don't think he's that quick. He was very much, he was the furthest player up the pitch. I'm not sure you're going to see too much of that. So I do think they are 2 separate things. And I think if there's one thing I'm slightly concerned about, it's that Duran would seem a lot more like Antonio than Füllkrug is. And I think it's not the first time with West Ham that maybe when we miss out on one transfer target, when we move on to the next, they're not necessarily the same type of player. Now, I mean, you could say that almost about anything. You could say that about Kyle Walker-Peters and Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who were primarily the 2 right-backs that we chased throughout the transfer window. They're obviously, nothing like each other. And I think, quite possibly, and unless my memory's playing tricks on me, last time I saw Kyle Walker-Peters play, he was playing as like a left winger or one of the games for Southampton or something like that. So they're very, very different. That being said, Wan-Bissaka has done all right on the left, hasn't he? I don't know. So I think if there's one thing that worries me about this signing is that this is possibly wouldn't necessarily be the guy that Lopetegui might have wanted. And I say that because we know he really liked Antonio and wanted him at Wolves. So if what he wanted was a slightly more mobile guy who's going to perhaps drift out wide, then maybe Füllkrug's not that man. But we've seen it before with Nesri, and some of his other stuff as well. Does he have Morata? I think he had Morata as well, who's again is a target man, not particularly quick. So maybe you can make it work. I'm pretty damn sure he will be able to, but I think you'll see a slight change.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it gets a bit sort of director of football-y as well, because long term, what you want to do is your technical director of football, Tim Steiding, sort of assembles a squad, and then you go get a head coach that can work with the player profiles you have available, a head coach that can play the way that you want to as a football club, and that basically the club implements the identity on the pitch. Then you go get the head coach that suits that and can make it work. But what we've done in one summer is go try and create an identity, but also get a manager to play the identity we've yet to create. And I think that's very difficult. It's going to have teething problems. And I think this is where we're going to see possibly the biggest one, because while there has been contradictory profiles of player we've gone after, you're right about Walker Peters and Wan-Bissaka, there's also been a couple of areas or a couple of players we've brought in where there's been no compromise, there's been no deliberation, and that's Kilman and Todibo.
Yeah.
Lopetegui was, I want him. Steiding was, I want him. There was no, we want this type of player. It was those two players specifically are the ones we want. So they made sure they went and got him. It was a pay what you have to. They didn't have that mentality with John Duran. They didn't have that pay whatever it takes to get him, because I think if they did, they would have got him. Which suggests that maybe they weren't convinced on a player, or they're not convinced on which type of striker we need. I don't know. I don't know the reasons for not pursuing it. The narrative has changed since Duran started doing well for Aston Villa this season. The stories have started coming out. That's a separate discussion. But the other night, so I already had a strong opinion on Duran and a pretty strong opinion on Füllkrug before he joined West Ham.
Yeah.
The one player I didn't have a strong opinion on was Samu. I don't know how you pronounce his second name. It starts with O. The Atletico Madrid striker who went to
Meridian.
Him. So I didn't have a strong opinion of him. Well, we were strongly linked to him as well during the summer, and he moved to Porto for quite a low fee, but there's a lot of clauses involved. Then I watched Porto play Man United, and he was the best player on the pitch. Got a couple of goals, brilliant, really good finishes. But as I was watching him, I'm thinking, this guy's nothing like Füllkrug.
No.
So I think, hang on a minute, this guy's closer to Duran than Füllkrug. So how are we gone from Duran and Samu, two young athletic strikers with bags of potential, to an experienced, completely different type of striker and Füllkrug? It doesn't really make sense. And I'm still unsure as to why we've decided to do that. Now, we know Tim Steiding's a fan of Füllkrug. David Moyes has confirmed that for us. And the thing you're going to get...
I don't know this. Tell me, because if I don't know...
Well, Moyes, I didn't know either. Subscribers point out to him, because during the Euros, I didn't listen to Moyes very much. It's not because of what he did at West Ham. I just found him contradictory when commenting on Scotland. He's commenting on Scotland, and one game he was criticising Clark for not making early subs. And I thought, hang on a minute, mate, I can't do this, because this is... And then we drew against Switzerland, and he sat there going, I'm not sure I would have played for a draw. And I thought, whoa. This is...
You would have played for a draw, mate.
It was triggering me, Gonzo. So when Moyes was the pundit for the Scotland game, I was like, it's not... What he was saying was correct about Scotland. We should have been making earlier subs, and we shouldn't have been playing for the draw. But because I had a personal attachment to him, it was difficult to listen to. Yeah. So anyway, the subscriber said to me, you want to go listen to what he said about Füllkrug. So Germany had played possibly Switzerland, and Füllkrug come on, got his goal. And in the punditry after, Moyes said, I might have made a mistake on him. So Moyes very much said, I was offered him last summer and didn't take him. He didn't use those words, but he said that he wanted Niclas Fullkrug, but he turned him down. Füllkrug spoken about Tim Steiding. When I spoke to Derek, he spoke about Tim Steiding liking Füllkrug liking Steiding. So I think it's quite clear that this one's very much a Tim Steiding signing, which makes it a little bit worrying as to what Lopetegui is going to do. So to answer that question, I don't know why we've signed him. It's a bit confusing, but there's no evidence yet. It's not like we've brought in a player and we're not using him. He's been unavailable for selection. I'm not chalking this signing up as a success or a failure yet. It's very much 50-50. I'm going to wait and see. I am a little bit nervous about it, and I'm not as hopeful as I perhaps was because I've seen how we're playing without him. That's nothing on Füllkrug. That's the way we played against Ipswich. You're watching that thinking, well, I'm not really sure about this. Not really sure. So that's that. In regards to what type of striker is he a traditional number 9? It depends who you think is a traditional number 9. Maybe a modern one, like what Harry Kane does. I think he's a very good example. You want to know what Füllkrug's like? I'd say that you look at Harry Kane a little bit. I'm not comparing ability or anything like that, just in terms of how they play. Because Kane is not quick as a player, but he drops deep, gets involved in the build-up, in around the 18-yarder. He's very clever, and I think Füllkrug can be as well. But he ain't quick at all, and I think that's the stress. But I think there's 3 ways that you get the best out of Füllkrug. Before I do that, I'm going to switch it back to Gonzo so he can speak, but also so he can plug Patreon.
Who's plugging Patreon, me or you?
You are. I've been speaking for a few minutes, so I'll give people rest their ears, and you can speak.
I thought you was on a roll. I think Gio would have done a very, very good job of plugging Patreon if Gio was going to carry on plugging Patreon and not taking this monk-like vow of silence. He'd probably tell you that if you wanted to support Hammers Chat, and you would think that supporting Hammers Chat whilst getting extra videos, entry into competitions, being part of the warm bosom, the family that is Hammers Chat, is worth 90 pence a week, then he would probably suggest that Patreon might well be the thing for you. We've got tons of stuff over there. We've got so many videos. A lot of the time, we are uploading an additional video every single day. But don't just do it for the videos. Don't just do it because you get a discount to the online Hammers Chat store. Don't just do it so as you get entered into competitions so you can win things like that signed captain's Paolo Di Canio armband, so as you can win things like a Jarrod Bowen signed shirt, Mohamed Kudus signed pants. We're joking. Don't have any of those. Don't just do it for that reason. Do it to basically, it's a great way.
These are for patrons to buy, by the way. And these aren't going on this store. These are not hitting hammerchatstore.com. We're not selling these. You have to be a patron, and we're selling them what we feel is a good deal. So we've got these two. Some of them are reserved, but we've still got a couple to sell and a couple to give away, all signed by Paolo Di Canio. Every single one of them. There you go.
Brilliant. Probably, we haven't faked it. It's not a fake signature, but all our stuff is legit, if you know what I mean. But it's a great way for you guys to support Hammers Chat. Basically, we're able to do this and bring you videos every single day and sit down on a very rainy, wet afternoon, sit down, do Hammers Chat videos constantly, all the time, because of our support from our wonderful patrons, our wonderful sponsors. So links in the description below, patreon.com/Hammers Chat. We've got a 7-day free trial as well. Go and check it out. Go and watch some of the old stuff. If you like it, maybe you'll carry on.
And there's 3 ways, I think. And the reason I'm saying this is because when I spoke to Derek, it was confirmation bias for me. Well, as you said, in the video, so these are the best ways to get the best out of Füllkrug. And he said, yeah, those are the way. Yeah. Number 1 is strike partner. You put someone next to him, which we're not going to do. There's no evidence under Lopetegui that we're going to be doing that. So I think we can rule that one out. But at Bremen, that's how they got the best out of Füllkrug. He had someone next to him that understood his game. He understood his game. Really good partnership. It worked. Goals and assists. Füllkrug can provide assists. The second one is lots of crosses, which I think will be fine in some games. Against Ipswich, I feel like we put in plenty of crosses. I think Füllkrug would have enjoyed that in inside the 18-yarder. But the problem is you've got to get up the pitch and get down the sides and get players committed forward. And up until the Ipswich game, I don't really feel like I've seen attacking fullbacks from West Ham. Wan-Bissaka and Emerson, I think, against Ipswich, I felt they were a little bit higher than what they usually were compared to other games. So maybe that's one way of doing it. And then the third way is how they do it, or what they do with the German international team. And this is why he struggled a bit at Dortmund, because Dortmund don't cross it. Dortmund are tiki-taka football. They are ball down, let's move it around. And Füllkrug went there, and he was okay. He still scored goals, but when you're a striker playing for Dortmund, you're probably going to score goals regardless of it. It's almost difficult to not. It's a bit like playing for Man City. I remember Michael Antonio on his podcast said, I'd score 20 goals for Man City. And while you might smirk and laugh, You get his point, which is you're
Yeah.
going to get an abundance of chances just because you play for Man City. And that option number 3 is you just get players close to him. And this is what the German international team do with Wirtz and Musiala in particular, because Sané ain't doing it. Sané is your old school winger. Well, he's an inverted winger, isn't he? He
Yeah.
goes on the right, but he cuts in, but he likes to start out wide and cut in. So he's not getting close to Füllkrug. But Musiala and Wirtz in particular, Kai Havertz, if he's on the pitch at the same time, especially, get close to Füllkrug, 10, 15 yards away at the most, and use him to build up in those little triangles that you can see sometimes, because he is good at it. And I think we've seen some glimpses of it at West Ham when we played Bournemouth in the Cup. I remember the pass from, he did a 1-2 with Somerville, but the return from Füllkrug was exceptional. The pass coming from somewhere, he just laid it off perfect. He couldn't have done it, but you could have asked him to pick the ball up and put it down, and he would have done what he'd done with his feet. Somerville just ran onto it inside the 18-yarder. It was fantastic. So he's capable of getting involved in the build-up, but will he be a success at West Ham? I'm not as hopeful.
Have you just who asked that question?
Nobody did. I'm just.
I was going to say, I don't remember Joan asking that.
Well, John and Brian said, would it change our offensive production? No, but I think our offensive production is going to have to change for Füllkrug rather than the other way around. And Joan just said we paid for him to be a regular starter. So what do we think is going to happen? How is he going to fit into our team? I think for me, to summarize, is I don't know yet. I need to see him play up front for us.
Yeah,
but while he's been out injured, Antonio's been impressing. So I think he's going to have to be a little bit patient post international break.
Well, let's forget the international break. Let's forget the injury just for a second and play it hypothetically. Let's just say that the Tottenham game was just coming sort of immediately after, a week later than the Ipswich game. Füllkrug doesn't get in the team. Antonio starts, and rightly so. For some people, he's man of the match, and he was brilliant. So I think there is that, certainly. I think, to hear what you said about Omaridian as well, which I didn't see that game for Porto, but I know he's a big athletic striker. Again, you look at him and think he's more like the other two than he is Füllkrug, and I do worry about that slightly. Particularly, that was news to me what you said about David Moyes. I worry if we've just tried to shoehorn a player in there, and it was almost a case of, okay, well, if we don't get these guys, then we'll go and get this one. If basically us having to sign that player is going to force a change of style from Lopetegui, I don't think that's great for me, because I think we've already got enough of a problem on our hands with Lopetegui he's already sort of ditched half a defensive style already, become more pragmatic. I think if what we've got now is, well, it looks there's some small improvements. Don't want to get too carried away because it was Ipswich, but I think the one other thing, though, the reason why it may work is one thing I have been really impressed with is the number of players that we seem to get in and around the box. There was a point against Ipswich, and to be fair, I'd noticed a similar thing against Brentford as well. But there was just one particular point where I looked at the team, and Emerson was in a position to deliver the cross, and everyone was apart from Todibo and Kilman, maybe Rodriguez or someone was on the D. The rest of the team were the attacking side of the 18-yard line. So basically, almost all our players are in. It's not even a final third; it's further than that. So there's definitely a tactic to try and get lots of players and lots of bodies in there. So if that's the case, then maybe, just maybe, you may well find players that can feed off Füllkrug, but we've got to play to his strengths. Lopetegui's no fool, though. This is the thing. He's no idiot. He's going to know that he needs to get the best out of him. But I would be very surprised, very, very surprised, if, looking at the three strikers that we have in terms of Danny Ings, Mikel Antonio, and Niclas Fullkrug, I'd be very surprised if that is Lopetegui's optimum. That's his ideal. That's really what he wanted to do. I suspect not, but he will not be the only manager in the league that has to make do. And I think this is the one thing we've got to say. There's been a lot of talk, both about Lopetegui and about Steiten, where they might have both not got what they wanted. And I don't have too much sympathy for it because you can. I think did Brighton do a bit more business than us, but by and large, we've done a lot of business, and there's a lot of teams, particularly on the continent. And I think this. I think there's a lot of clubs on the continent where Lopetegui wouldn't have got anywhere near the number of players that he's been given at West Ham to use. So I think he's been quite blessed in that sense. So I don't want to hear moaning about it. And I would also say the same to Stuyton. Stuyton, you hear the stories that maybe he's not been back. But I wouldn't be surprised if Stuyton was given more money at West Ham and been given almost more of a blank check, if you know what I mean, than his old boss Simon Rolfs got a couple of seasons ago at Leverkusen. So I think they're both doing okay. And the fact that we might be a player or two light, or it might not be quite the right striker, I wouldn't be surprised if other managers and other directors of football saying, "Oh, boo-hoo, get the violin out on that." We've done all right, and I think they've got to make it work, really, whatever happens. Any final words, Gio?
No, just I think Füllkrug's a good striker, and if we can get the best out of him, the team will be better. I think he could improve how we've already been playing if we can get the best out of him, and having two different profiles of strikers in Füllkrug and Antonio is a good thing. If it's the last thing you want to do is if a certain way and style isn't working is to switch up by bringing on a very identical striker to continue doing what the first guy did. So to be able to change the game, because that's what you can do. You can change. You take Füllkrug off and put Antonio on, and vice versa. You can completely change the way that you play. Your strengths and weaknesses as an attack change as well. And I think some games it might be Antonio's the best option from the start. In other games it might be that Füllkrug's the best option from the start. It'll be a good conversation to have. But if Lopetegui can get the best out of him, we will be a better team for it. And listen, against Crystal Palace, I'm scraping the barrel, but that's all I've got here. I've not seen him much, but against Crystal Palace, when he came on, I thought Füllkrug looked really sharp. I was looking forward to seeing more of him. It's just, it's a bad time of the season to get injured when you've just joined a club and you're going to miss the entire period between two international breaks. I feel a bit sorry for him, actually, because there's a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, there is.
And the pressure's increased. While he's been injured, the pressure has increased because of the form of the geezer at Aston Villa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think this is exactly it, Gio. And we talked about it. We talked about it for 20 odd minutes, but without being funny, we got very, very little. We talked about evidence, and we spoke about that with Lopetegui. Early games, we haven't got enough evidence yet. We need to see more games. We've had a couple of months of Lopetegui. We haven't had a couple of months of Niclas Fullkrug, so we're still pretty much playing a guessing game. All we can hope is that he's available for the Tottenham game.